Hello there, Ray here, and behind me is a large concrete block generator that I designed. This design here is capable of producing up to 50,000 concrete blocks per hour. The generator starts out over here in the overworld. This is at the entrance end portal, and this is my fast sand generator, but we're currently using it to generate these concrete powders. If you want to know more about this sand generator, I will link in the description to the video that explains this. But here it's generating these concrete powders. The duplicate part of the concrete powders will appear here in the end dimension above the obsidian platform, and it will appear up in the air and it will continue to fall. And right here I have a slime block contraption, just like a slinky, that's going back and forth, and the slime blocks are actually pushing the falling entities either to the right or left. So you can see that the falling blocks, even though they're trying to fall downwards, they're getting pushed off to the side. And this way we got about half of the falling blocks going that direction, the other half going this way, and the concrete powders will end up coming over here. They'll be aligned with this obsidian right here, and then they will fall down, and they either fall on top of this fence gate or they fall on top of this cobble wall here if the fence gate is missing. Now when the blocks fall on top of these 1.5 meter tall blocks, they will not turn into a block, but they'll keep their entity form. So if we press F3 and B, we can see that they do have a hitbox because they're entities still. And here they will just stay in their entity form and just stay on top of either the fence or the cobble wall. Now here I got another slinky that is pushing the blocks either to the right or left, and this way we're dividing the blocks up again by about half, and the other half is getting pushed up against this obsidian block here, which gets aligned, and they get sent down into another slinky. This slinky is moving at a little bit different rate than the one above it. This way we don't have all the blocks going into just one side. We try to break it up so they go about half each way. And this slinky is kind of made kind of weird. The clock back here is actually made out of another slimestone slinky, so this one's going back and forth, and there's just some delay which allows this slinky to go at a different timing than the one before, because we're trying to break all the concrete powders up so they're not overwhelming for the system. So once they got split again, then the concrete powders are pushed up against this fence here. Now since they're entities, they will be able to fall between this fence and this cobble wall here, and they will actually be able to fall straight down and land down here. Now since the concrete powders have actually been first aligned up against this fence, they acquire a special hitbox so that they are not actually in the center of a block. This allows the concrete powder to actually fall in between two blocks. So we see the concrete powder falls between this side as well as this side. So it's stuck kind of in the middle, but it's more off to this side slightly. So this way when it falls down, it will not fall and turn into a block onto this side because it's more closer to that side. But yet it's not close enough to this side to actually continually to fall because it's still clipping on the side of this one. So this allows the concrete powder to fall and just stay as an entity because it cannot continue to fall and it cannot continue to turn into a block. So it sits right on the edge here, and when it sits on the edge it still is an entity, and we can actually see that by pressing F3 and B. These blocks that are here are actually entities, and you can see they have a hitbox as well. Now when they're in this position, they are able to be moved as entities, and that is what this trapdoor is doing here. The trapdoor is on another bigger slinky, which is going back and forth, and the trapdoor allows blocks to land on top of the trapdoor without breaking because they will stay as an entity form. And when the trapdoor slides off to the side, the blocks will fall down slightly, and then the trapdoor itself has a hitbox which will allow the trapdoor to push the entities either to the right or left. When the concrete powders get pushed over to the side where there's water here, they will still be in entity form. You can see that they are just sitting here for a brief moment as a powder block, and then when they are only one here and it's their turn, they will see this water source over here, and since they are closer to this side where the water is than they are over to this side, they will see that they are inside of the water, and therefore that they can turn it into an actual concrete block. So then they convert from a concrete powder and turn it into a concrete block. So then a block is placed, and when they place a block, they place a block in an actual spot. Since entities can sit over top of block borders, but the actual block itself has to be placed within inside of the block form. So once it turns into a block, we have some pistons here which are moving quite fast, which are just a sticky piston which will pull any block that is formed in this spot here and pull it over here, and we have another piston which will push it up, and we just have two of these working at the same time to remove the blocks at a more quicker pace. Now that once the blocks are block form, then they are just pushed upward, and up here we have some more pistons which just maneuver the blocks into position, which allow them to get pushed over into this direction. And once the blocks are getting moved over here, they will come in contact with a TNT duplicator, which is duplicating TNT, which is causing the TNT to come down and blow the blocks up. And underneath here we have hoppers, which will pick up the blocks. Hoppers are currently full. And then the hoppers can just have all your blocks placed into chest or wherever else you want to place the blocks. The TNT duplicators are placed up into the air so that when the TNT is ignited, it has a fuse, and by the time the TNT's fuse is up and the TNT will explode, it will end up exploding right here above the level in the water. This way it will destroy the blocks without the TNT actually going inside the water, where therefore it would not actually destroy the blocks. This contraption here has to work fairly quickly to actually turn all those powders into concrete blocks and turn those blocks into items. That way the system doesn't get jammed up just with blocks. And that's why we have so many TNT duplicators from above, just to keep up with the speed of these blocks that are coming in. You can see all the blocks and how fast they're coming in. This is just one of 8 TNT destroying cells that we use to actually turn the blocks into items. And with this setup you can get around 50,000 concrete blocks per hour, and you can get all the 16 different colors with this as well. So with this contraption there is a large amount of entities at any given point. So if I pull up my F3 screen, you can see that the entity count is around 210 entities at any given point. This is including the duplicate TNTs that are falling, which are entities, as well as a large amount of concrete powders which are in the system. So I tried to keep the entire entity count somewhat low, and this is why I try to move the concrete powders through the system as fast as possible. That way they don't just get built up and cause a large amount of lag, because if you do just hold these entities around, they can easily cause your computer to crash because they get duplicated so quickly. And this way I try to cause them to be turned back into block forms and then back into item forms, and then bank those items. That way you don't have the entities building up in your world. So the timings on all these devices are produced by this clock as well as some manually started devices. And right here we have a clock which is just made from a piston pushing an observer block over top of some redstone with a 2 redstone tick delay, which comes back into the piston, which causes a clock that produces a produces a pulse every 8 game ticks. And by using this I was able to actually run all these pistons from above here, which goes into the pistons which are pushing the concrete blocks over into the TNT destroying cells. And also underneath here is another piston which also turns on and off a similar clock which is down here. And this clock runs all the other pistons which are down here, which will just pull the concrete blocks from here and push them upwards. And these clocks are connected so that they're in synchronize. And we also have another piston here which goes up and turns on the TNT duplicators. This TNT duplicate design is made by Pi, and this allows the TNT to not actually destroy itself but just get duplicated, and the duplicate TNT is sent downward and is used to remove the blocks. And this way we can have the blocks being removed without using a wither or other explosives. The only bad part is because of the timings of all these pistons, I wasn't able to get all the blocks being pushed in at block 36. Therefore some of the blocks will actually get destroyed while getting pushed towards in TNT. And this is just because I use a lot of different timings in my pistons here. Because the concrete powder generator produces around 100,000 concrete powder per hour, and because some of the items that are sent into the TNT cells to be destroyed are lost, and that's why this produces around 50,000 concrete blocks per hour. And I may try to increase the efficiency of this, but at this point I thought this was pretty good. You could run this contraption in multiplayer as well as in single player, although in single player it's a lot more difficult because you would have to chunk load either the overworld or the end dimension, which can be difficult with large contraptions like this that require very precise timings. Now with multiplayer you can have a player AFK at both positions, and this way you allow the player to actually keep both dimensions loaded correctly. Otherwise you would have to also use precise timing to keep this contraption loaded so they would not break. A few of these slinkies in the center here are manually started, like this one here. They are not actually connected to the clock down here, so you just have to manually start them up. And when you do that, you do want to try to get it so that it will have the slinky pushing about half the concrete powders in either direction. And same goes for this slinky down here. He's not connected to the redstone, even though it looks like he is. The slinky is going by himself as well. And I also have some extra pistons that are pushing on the sides here. You can see once in a while Like this one over here. Some of these don't get used, like this one here. He's not being used currently. And this is just to take on extra load if it would happen to be that more load would come into this dimension over here or on this side than this side here. And that's why we have some extra ones that would just take on the load so that it does not allow too many entities to pile up in one area, and they're able to collect all of them up. But you can see how crazy it looks with all these different colors being just generated out of thin air and just being taken up and turned into item form, which you can collect and use elsewhere. I have provided a world download for this in the description if you'd like to look at this build in more detail. There you have it, a large concrete block generator which uses a bunch of nifty tricks to actually turn concrete powders over into concrete blocks and turn those blocks into items for you to use. So if you found this interesting, show me the like. If you'd like to see more wild contraptions like this, subscribe and don't forget to comment. Bye bye!